And what made you get into the startup world again? And how do you see this experience now compared to the first time? Is it easier now? Is it more difficult? Do you have a lot more competition, a lot more opportunities?
So let's take these one by one. What made me get into the startup world again? Well, first of all, I think it's just like first time, it was very much by accident. It wasn't like a big decision. It's very interesting. I've never taken a big decision ever in my life. Kind of everything just came up and was a very clear, very natural thing to do. And I think when we realized the potential that a platform like FlowX can have, it was just a very, very simple decision. It was just very organic for us to move in that direction. So that was the first question. What was
Was it more difficult, easier?
Was it more difficult or easier? Well, in a way, it was easier because I think I've done so many mistakes in the previous company that we've been able now to really avoid making a lot of them again, and I think that's great. I think at the same time it's somewhat more difficult for two reasons. One, we're building something that is much bigger, or that we want to be much bigger. And second, because we're responsible for other people's money, for our investors' money. And I didn't realize this, but because I've always been, for example, at Qualitance, we had no outside investment. We've just been, and yes, we've had rough times, but I never lost a night's sleep, right? And it was okay, whatever will be. Here, I remember really getting up out of bed like 3 a.m. and it was like, how are we going to scale customer success in Singapore, right? And questions like this. And I think that makes things, puts a lot more responsibility, which is, it's a great thing. It's but it definitely, raises the bar for sure.
What made you choose this particular business idea? How was FlowX born? And when did you decide, how did you decide that it's better to make it a spin-off outside Qualitance and not develop the project within?
So we've been building FlowX inside Qualitance for almost a decade now, right? And we've been deploying that in multiple projects with various clients, because we were at Qualitance. What we were doing, we were working on digital transformation projects with large global enterprises. So we had customers like IKEA or Merck or Johnson & Johnson, and I think it was the scalable. So, and that's something very interesting, because we organically adjusted for this need of large enterprises to deliver digital transformation in a much more efficient way. And because we haven't been trying to build a product, we didn't go after any type of market trend or outside trend. We didn't look necessarily at competition. We were just building and organically adjusting for the best problem solution fit. And I think that this is how we were able to come up with a really differentiated product when we started FlowX. Now I can say the idea didn't just come up, right? We sort of gradually built to it, organically built to it for a number of years, and at the end of the day, it's pretty much on the same idea or the same obsession that we had as a team with building software in a much more efficient way, right? And I think the frustration here that we felt about just how incredibly slow and how incredibly inefficient developing software, especially in large enterprises, is. I think that was one of the reasons that pushed us forward. And to be honest, it's an incredibly noisy market, and enterprises have just been promised for more than 2 decades now all these tools, right? All these very useful tools for digitizing their businesses and building software easier. And, unfortunately, they ended up with thousands of point solutions and captive to proprietary technologies, and everybody's pointing the finger at enterprise teams. But I would say that they've just been deceived for a long time by the market promising, very different things. And there's been many promises over the years, right? There's been the no code, low code, citizen developers, all of that. And I think, coming in this space and being able to deliver on those promises, for us, this was absolutely fantastic.
How do you consider that your previous experience while developing Qualitance outside Romania helped you or is helping you now?
Well, it was super important because, first of all, we resisted the temptation to go into the US market, for example, very early. We knew how sophisticated and challenging and professional the US market is. So we knew that before we go there, we had to have an absolutely, not just outstanding product, but all the small mechanisms of the company, they had to be oiled and geared, and tuned accordingly so that we are able to really respond to demands from some of the biggest companies on the planet. And I think that has been in building sales teams in the North American market. I think this was a super interesting lesson that we're now taking to another level with FlowX.
Since we mentioned Qualitance before and the development of the previous business, I would like to go back to the beginning of your career in tech and as an entrepreneur. How much did two guys from Bucharest with background in education or in teaching know about business back then, and how difficult was it to get out of math and development mindset to become actual entrepreneurs?
So I think one of the things that probably helped at the time was the fact that one of my first jobs was for a US startup. So and that was the job that I can say really shaped how I'm thinking about working with people. And I think that was incredibly useful. But other than that, really nothing. We started off, and I remember us building a website, right? And me dropping my phone number on the website. And then we're just looking at the phone and like, why aren't people calling? We have a website, right? So but then we had to figure it out. And I think that was incredibly helpful, the fact that we really had to figure things out. And it created a certain resilience in the team.
How was your first contact back then with international clients, and what lessons did you learn at that point? And how did you use these lessons now with FlowX?
That's an interesting question. Well, I've always been working for international companies, right? And whether it was a US startup, whether it was Adobe, again, a US product company. So always had a ton of touch points with kind of the outside world and in building products and services. And I think, those were probably the most useful lessons that we've gotten, both also, for example, in IBM. I think we've had a ton of things to learn from both the corporate and the startup world before we actually started the business. And then all those things kind of came together, right? And we started working initially with Romanian clients, but then very, very soon after we moved out
Qualitance was born in the same year as the iPhone, and I would like to ask you, what significance does that hold for you?
Yeah. So that was actually seeing the iPhone for the first time was one of the things that really determined us to start a company, because I remember there was this one colleague that came from the US and he had bought an iPhone, and touching it was just, well, this is absolutely amazing engineering. And that's when we decided this is the type of things that we wanted to build. We want to build products that feel absolutely extraordinary, like this thing, right? And everything else felt just so clunky and dated and, just tough and hard to work with. And then you had this beautiful piece of engineering, right, that blended great technology and great user experience. And yeah, that's when we decided, well, these are the things, that the type of things that we want to build. This is how we want our users to feel when they touch our technology. And I think this is something that permeated throughout the cultures at Qualitance, permeated throughout the culture at FlowX. I think people have always been incredibly mindful about how do we create experiences for our users that just feel amazing, right? And especially with FlowX, if you think about it, it's been the consumer market that benefited from all the innovation, right? Whether it's been resources, whether it's been talent, every if you want to build outstanding technology, you go to Apple or Facebook or Google or one of the consumer companies. You don't go to a B2B company. And I think this is shown. And at the end of the day, ultimately, enterprise software is what defines our lives. Like, our lives are just based on enterprise software, right? And it's probably the thing that touches most people today on the planet. Yet we're dedicating very little innovation and attention, right, resources to this area. So I think this is what we're doing with FlowX. We're bringing sexy into the enterprise world.
Also, going back to the early days and since the beginning of your career in tech, do you remember when you first heard about startups, about this concept? Not just in Romania, but outside Romania.
I think it was my first, my second job right out of college was a US based startup. And yeah, I didn't really have a huge understanding of what that meant. I understood it's a very early company. I didn't really care a lot because I liked the vibe and people. It was just this good feeling of a few very smart people coming together to build something, and that felt really appealing to me. Also, working. I was basically working for startups before working for startups was cool. And I would have everybody telling me, like, come on, dude, get a serious job with a serious company. It's like, this garage thing, that doesn't really work. Like, it's okay for a while, but forget about it. But I think I never felt that. I have always felt that, it's such a tremendous potential when you get together with just a few absolutely exceptional people, and, mountains can be moved, when you get together in that type of mindset.
Do you remember what people said when you've told them that, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, to found my own business?
Well, first of all, I never told anyone that I'm going to be an entrepreneur, because I really, I kind of don't like that term. I think it's so, and people want to be entrepreneur because it's a word, it's a thing, and I think that's the wrong mindset. I think the right mindset is, trying to find a way to really bring value into the world, and then of course capture a part of that value. But bringing value to the world is not just about creating something, it's also about taking it to people and helping them understand how useful it is for them. back to your question, I think every single founder will tell you this. It's 1,000 people that explain to you why it's not going to work, and that's okay. I mean, sure, and they're right. I mean, it shouldn't work. This is the interesting thing about startups. It's something that defies logic in a certain way, right? Because you're betting that this small thing that's built by just a couple of people at the beginning, right? Whether it's 2, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, I don't know. But this small thing is going to take on huge companies and huge competitors and win market against those. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's just completely nonsensical. So in a way, everybody telling you that you're most likely going to fail, they're kind of right. I think one of the things, though, that people discount a lot is this exponential effect of amazing people, really exceptional people coming together and building something, right? And this is something that we're betting a lot on, and this is something that at FlowX we believe a lot in. That we believe that a very, very small number of absolutely exceptional people will build more and better and faster than a large number of good people, right? So I think that's the one thing that startups have to their advantage, which is the ability of bringing together a couple of really outstanding people, and there's this compound effect, right, of intelligence and coming together to solve a problem.
So how would you define yourself at this point?
I'm a guy that supports a great team. I think that's my best definition. We have a fantastic team, and I'm just there to support them doing whatever they're doing. Right? I'm not the best engineer. Not that I'm not the best. I'm the worst engineer in the team. Right? I'm the worst salesman in the team. I'm the worst. I'm the worst at everything in the team. Right? But I'm just there to support what they're doing and help them work together and go somewhere interesting.
You guys worked with clients outside Romania at Qualitance and now with FlowX, and I would like to know what was their initial opinion, or what did they know about Romania back then, and how was it different this time? Because, like you said, FlowX is something that started within Qualitance for a very long time, so they knew about you. Okay, maybe the clients are different, but you have this experience of working with and for companies and people outside Romania.
Well, yeah, it's clients are different as names, right? But at the end of the day, they're the same clients, they're the same market. I think there's two big differences. One is that we're approaching them with a product solution, which is, again, exponentially better and much easier to scale and much easier to provide a robust offering on. And two, one of the absolutely huge things that happened for Romania, and there's no other way to put it, was UiPath. UiPath completely changed the perception of Romania in terms of VCs, in terms of clients. It was just an absolutely fantastic thing. And I think a lot of the things that are possible today, the fact that we have been able to raise the largest Series A round in the industry in the last 2 years globally, I think that is in part also due to the fact that we had UiPath before here. Right? It drew a lot of attention to the potential of the market, to the potential of the people here, of the engineering. So it just completely changed the game for everyone.
Again, if you still remember when you first started working with companies outside Romania and companies from Silicon Valley, which is the mecca of entrepreneurs, of startups, of founders, what things did you learn about that business environment from Silicon Valley, and from those companies, and you also applied within Qualitance, and maybe you're still using now with FlowX?
There's so many things, but maybe let me try thinking about a couple of things that are probably the most impactful. Really good question, though. Well, first of all, I think it's been about having a really, really big, bold vision, and really not being ashamed of having a big, bold vision, right? I think culturally, Romanians are, and Eastern Europeans in general, tend to be very humble. And that's on one side a good thing, but they tend to be too humble to express fully what they believe can be. And I think, that's incredibly useful, the ability to dream big and to express your big dreams in front of other people. And I think that's probably one of the things that was most shocking about Silicon Valley, is how, startups that were one, two people were just emitting this bold hypothesis about the world and going after it. And yeah, I mean, definitely not everyone succeeded, but then it was absolutely amazing to see the ones that were succeeding, making it big. So I would say that was probably the number one, two, and three insight that really changed how we thought about building a business and interacting with people.
How did you see during all these years, while building Qualitance, and now since you started FlowX or went separately with FlowX, how did you see the Romanian tech and startup ecosystem evolve? So, which were some key
Again,
moments?
yeah, again, I think UiPath, the UiPath story has been a fantastic enabler for a dramatic change in the startup ecosystem, right? There's no denying that. The attention that from venture capital that they brought, the and the belief of people that they can actually build something at that scale, starting from Romania, those were the two things that changed, right? Not to mention all the know-how and all the which now is coming back into the market from people who were at UiPath and were able to return it to the market.
Where do you think that we're heading? Or I don't know, what kind of opportunities do you see in Romania? You're not so focused on Romania now with FlowX, but you started from here. How do you see the opportunities now for startup founders in Romania?
I think the opportunity is to build absolutely amazing things addressing a global market, right? And we have the talent, we have the grit, we still get that. We have a fantastic work ethic in people. I would say it's really enjoyable being able to work in an office in Romania where people focus a lot on truly substantive things and creating value rather than empty narratives and playing some sound bites all over again. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to build IP and create truly an IP economy, right? And I think one of the countries that are really a good example here is Israel, for sure. I believe Romania can be something similar, can create a ton of IP and can address a global market. And we have the talent and we have all the, let's say, all the ingredients to do that.
Do you think that if FlowX and the entire team, you and the entire team behind it, would have been, I don't know, just a small startup company with very little ambition to go outside Romania, you would have gotten to this point so fast and talking about the latest round that you raised, the latest huge round that you raised? Do you think?
Of course not. There's no doubt. I mean, one of the things that really mattered, right, is being able to address a global problem with a global, huge total addressable market, right? So I think that was one of the main ingredients. And again, I know I have many VC friends and early VCs, right, or early stage VCs. And the two things that they talk about all the time are team and total addressable market. And they're saying if it's a great total addressable market with a really good team behind, then chances are they're going to make it. They're going to figure it out somehow, right? If the team is not good, if the total addressable market is not good, then it's dead it's dead to begin with, right? So yeah, those are the two absolute necessary, not always sufficient ingredients for success.
You mentioned funding, and how do you see the funding ecosystem and the funding opportunities for Romanian startups here in Romania, not just outside?
Well, first of all, you have a ton of local capital. You have angels. Our first money was raised with angels. You have a ton of local VCs as well, but then a lot of access to international VCs. Our first VCs have been regional VCs, and now we have a big, we have the largest specialist fund in B2B in Europe as one of our investors. And, you know, the access to capital is just, again, probably a lot of it is thanks to the UiPath story for sure. But
Qualitance, like we said, was born in 2007, and I want to ask you, how was it for you to develop a company during the crisis of 08, 09, also taking into account what's happening now and while you're developing FlowX now, and again, there's kind of a crisis, or at least VCs are thinking 2 times, 3 times before offering their capital to startups. How do you see these moments put together?
I think there's a lot of opportunity to create value during difficult moments, for sure, right? And I think this is what happened with Qualitance back in 2008, 2009. And I think it's very much the same thing that happened with FlowX, even though it wasn't planned, because we just at the end of 2019 we made the decision of spinning out FlowX, and then what was it, spring of 2020, COVID hit and everything that followed. But so we didn't provoke that one, just to spin out a good company. But it definitely helps because it drives people thinking about value creation in a much more pragmatic way, right? And you know, weirdly enough, I believe that the moment we are right now in terms of funding has actually been very helpful, because a lot of VCs started looking at companies that create value in a much more robust and consistent way, right? I think there's a lot of hype in growth environments, and yeah, of course, you can raise a lot of money and you know, high valuations and all that during a hype cycle, but actually I don't really enjoy that. And I believe the most important thing is calibrating for and optimizing for value creation, not for how much money you raise or for how big of a valuation the company has. I think if you take care of the value creation, all these things are going to take care by you know, are going to be taken care by automatically, right? But I think on the other side, if you raised a lot of money and you're not creating a ton of value, that's when you're going to be in a bit of a trouble.
How did you manage to stay motivated during all these years and now to even start again?
Well, there's probably two things. One is the idea that we as a team can change something fundamental to our civilization. The fact that we can change how enterprise software is being built, I think that's a huge opportunity. And then it's the team that you're working with. I don't think there's anything as exciting and that creates as much satisfaction as solving a very hard, complex problem with a fantastic team. I think those are the two elements that I find that are really giving me a ton of energy to move forward.
You've mentioned that that you see the Romanian startup ecosystem evolve kind of like to the level of the Israel, the startup ecosystem in Israel. Would you please try to put it also in a context? What's next for the Romanian startup ecosystem, also in the context of what's happening in the region and maybe in Europe? We are looking at Poland and Hungary and even Bulgaria.
Well, it's very hard for me to say because this is a big macro economics kind of question. So I'm not sure how good I am at that, right? I think the next big thing for us is to learn to sell. I think we lack sales talent in Central Europe in general. And I think that's the next big capability to build sales and marketing talent. One of the things that I get from VCs constantly is that always Central European startups have much better products, but they're not able to sell as well as North American startups. They focus a lot more on building a good product, not as much on selling. And I think both parts of the equation are important. And this is what, something that we're openly telling and we're very explicit about in FlowX, that there are two poles between which the value is being created. It's creating a product and then helping a client to take that product and use it and extract value out of it, not just selling it, right? But really helping clients get value out of your product. I think those are the two, big poles between which there's the value creation is happening. So I think we've gotten pretty good at as a ecosystem, as you say, at building products. I think we need to fix the GTM part, the go-to-market part now.
Talking about capital, which was more challenging, let's say challenging for you while raising money for FlowX? To the first time you've tried to get capital for the business, or I don't know, this round with $35 million? Well, and also talking with investors and convincing them.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever had a challenging moment in raising capital. I think what we did and the value of what we were building has always been, quite clear and quite exciting for potential investors. I think in both rounds we ended up ultimately oversubscribed, and but I think the interesting maybe comment here is that money is not just money, and what matters most is the investor and the people and the team that you bring along with an investment in the company. And I think here again we've been just very lucky to meet people that are absolutely exceptional. whether it was our angels, our initial angels who supported the spin out of the company, whether it was our seed investors, or whether it was our Series A investors. We've always been very fortunate to meet absolutely extraordinary people, and people that we could see ourselves building the business with, and having a ton of common values and a ton of common ground. So I think that was maybe the most exciting characteristic for us.
What's next for FlowX? I don't know. Do you see yourselves as the next Romanian unicorn? What are your ambitions, your goals?
Well, I think next for us is to build a good business, right? And create a ton of value for clients, and bring on really outstanding and exceptional people to help build and scale the business. But we're really not thinking in terms of valuations and unicorns and all of that. I think we're just insanely obsessed with creating value for our clients. And that's kind of the lens through which we see the world. And we know that everything else will follow if we apply that lens in a consistent way.
How do you see your own path? I don't know, let's say in the next 10, 20 years, do you still think that you'll be working for FlowX or maybe develop another startup? Are you more thrilled about the idea of building something rather than, I don't know, managing?
If you had asked me a few months before our breakthrough and realizing that FlowX can be an incredibly scalable opportunity, I would have never seen myself out of Qualitance, right? I definitely don't see myself out of FlowX right now. I think we have so much potential to build and so much potential to scale, and it's the people that we're meeting are extraordinary. The team that we've been gathering is just superb. So no, I'm right now, like I'm 100% FlowX minded, so to speak, right? But then again, we don't know what the future looks like. But if you are to ask me, I would bet on myself being in FlowX for a long time.
And my last question, what would you call a documentary about Romanian startups, about Romanian founders?
I think maybe something along the lines of from gray communism to full color, to a full color economy. And I remember I was when I was, I think 11, it was like 91. We had these friends coming from Canada, and they had kids my age, and like, oh, this place is so awesome, and everything looks just like in an old movie. It's like all gray, and I'm like, just go fuck yourself, like, it's all gray. What the hell are you talking about? And then a couple of years later, I flew and I spent about half a year in Canada, and coming back as I was landing, it was 96. Yeah, it was 96. And I don't know, holy crap, these guys were right. This is all gray. This is all black and white. Unbelievable, right? And yeah, I think things have changed a lot for Romania, and at a speed that's just absolutely astounding. Like if you think where we started in the 90s, right, and where we are right now, we're really competing as one of the hottest environment for startups and for technology and for innovation. I think we've done pretty well, right? So yeah, I think we have a fantastic history of innovation in Romania. If you look at the period between the two world wars, you just have this massive amount of innovation that's coming out of Romania, right? From I don't know, medical, engineering, aviation. It's good. It's absolutely a fantastic environment. And then, of course, we've had a communist period, and everything was shut down, and we regressed quite a bit. But it just feels that the Romanian, let's say, ecosystem is finding its speed again. So it's very exciting to see that.